This episode is sponsored by Fraze Flowers, a Western New York family-run flower farm and floral preservationist. They offer unique and one-of-a-kind pressed flowers in the shape of buffaloes. Every buffalo is handcrafted, and because they are made with flowers, each one has its own look and personality.
You can get a hold of them on their website at fraseflowers.com. That's Frase flowers.com. Or check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Bring more joy and color into your life at Frase Flowers. What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Monday, April 7th, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Episode 349. Phil's flustered over there. He's got no lacrosse ball. It's very orange in his room. And the Sabres jersey behind you is a little spooky. Little spooky. But
so is the team.
The room's looking a lot better. I don't know if anything's changed since the last episode, but it's coming all together. I don't think we talked about it in the last episode, but the room's looking good.
Thank you. We got a new blinds, new blinds up on the one window. The other window over here, blinds are still coming in. The shelves that are going here are still a work in progress. They're being painted, but got the brackets up, so a lot still going on. A little bit more back to normal, but you can't really see it too much on video, but it's a hot mess right now, and half of it's in my bedroom, so a lot still going on. And instead of a lacrosse ball, I found this little penguin, so he's gonna be my friend for the episode.
So we got a long show. We're going to be talking about Bandits' win over the Mammoth, Week 19 in the NLL, and at least one Sabres game. The second one's going on right now, so we'll be able to cover part of it. But we'll dive into it. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article is coming out tomorrow, which is Tuesday. My article will be out on Thursday. Power rankings for Week 12. Check both of those out on the website. You can also check out our store on our link tree on all our social media sites or at the top of the website by hitting the shop tab. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. We'll start with the Bandits. After a down week, Phil was very angry with the team. He was banging his fist on the desk a lot. They bounced back in a big way, 15-10 over the Mammoth. No penalties the entire game, Phil. It's quite an accomplishment. And a goalie goal. So many things transpired in this game. McKay and Bucky had 3. Burns, Scanlon, and Smith 2 each. Dylan Robinson, Chase Frazier, and Mad Vince 1 each. Vince, 32 of 42 saves. Shots were 59-42 in favor of Buffalo. Face-offs, somehow, which we'll talk about in a bit, 16-13 in favor of Colorado. 1 for 3 on the power play for Buffalo, and Colorado was a measly 0 for. They didn't score a single power play goal because they didn't get a single chance. Phil, what'd your overview of the game look like?
I was going to say the best defense is offense, but the best penalty kill is no penalties. So there's words of wisdom for the day. I thought it was a weird game. It was, I don't know, between two teams, I was kind of expecting this game to be a little bit more hyped up, a little bit more rival. The Loud House had a lot of people in it. I expected it to be, I don't know. It seemed like, and I know this is kind of where we're at with Buffalo, but I don't want to be down on them because it was a good win. But it seemed like everyone was just kind of going through the motions. Like there were spurts from both teams that looked really good. I thought both goalies played really well, but there's a reason Buffalo had 0 penalties, right? And I think a big part of that was because there really wasn't that rivalry. Like the fighting wasn't there. I'm not saying like a physical fight, but like the after the play stuff, the extra physicality wasn't there. It just seemed like both teams were kind of playing the game, and Buffalo was the better team and got out ahead and eventually and just kind of took over from there. It was just, I don't know, it felt very strange to me. It just felt like lackluster, I guess, from a game I was expecting to be a little bit more exciting. Not necessarily Buffalo, Toronto, but these are two teams that have seen each other plenty recently and don't really like each other. So I expected a little bit more nastiness, but I think because of where Colorado is and how much of a, sadly for them, downturn they're on with some of their injuries and things going on, I feel like it just didn't have the hype and excitement of the game I was expecting, and eventually Buffalo just seemed to be the better team and kind of took off at the very end of the game.
So I still enjoy the game. I still think it was a very good game, and it was very, very close in the first half. I do agree with you on the aspect of the physicality. There wasn't a ton of that in this one, and I do agree with you. I think a lot of it is the prior teams that Colorado used to have are a shell of themselves at this point. You had Ryan Lee and you had Connor Robinson, and that was about it on the offensive end. The back end, it was pretty much just Dylan Ward, Warren Jeffrey, a few other guys mixed in. But the Buffalo did get the benefit of no Robert Hope. He was a last-minute addition to the short-term holdout. You had no Damon Edwards, who went into this one questionable. He was out as a scratch in this one. Kelly did come back. And then for Buffalo, Ron John was the healthy scratch. I think the offense came alive when they went inside. There were too many times where they were settling for far out shots, and there was no chance Ward was going to be able to let any of those ones in. I think Vince was great in this one. He was making those big time saves that I was that we were missing last week. There were no penalties. We already addressed that. I think part of it was the lack of physicality. I think Buffalo got up by those 6 goals at one point in the second half, and we're just kind of in cruise control, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Their offense found their groove, and then, to me, the one player that really stood out to me, and in a negative way, and I made a joke about it in the group chat. I'm not going to say it on here because I'm not allowed to, but I did not like Thomas Woody's game at all in this one. I think he was out of position. There was missed switches, but I'll talk about that when we get to the defense. But overall, they got the win they needed. I have more confidence in the offense than I did in prior weeks. I don't think I've felt this good about the offense since the Las Vegas game, and that was only for a quarter. So I am feeling much better about this one, and I think me feeling better about the offense, which is a nice transition into our first topic of the offense, is they put 14 past Dylan Ward, who, this is not Dylan Ward of last year. This is not Dylan Ward of 2 years ago. This is Dylan Ward this year, who is up for goaltender of the year. So I think them putting 14 past him, yes, without the defense in front of him, but they still got inside and capitalized when they did. And I thought Dylan Ward played a very, very good first half. I think the offense of Buffalo just wore down Colorado's makeshift of a defense, and I think that definitely helped in this one.
Yeah, there was a lot of highlights and a lot of players to call out on the offensive side. I mean, I'll be nice and call out Dane, who had a very good game. And one thing I did notice with him, which was really interesting, and I thought he did it last game, but couldn't capitalize on his own strategy, which I think he did this time, was he scored both games now, and the last 2 games, I think he's had his early goal. He cuts to the front and buries it over the left shoulder, high shot, looks amazing, and then kind of goes quiet. But in this game, you could see he did the same thing, and then he was shooting a lot of his shots low, and I think that was setting up his eventual goal to then shoot again high, because at that time, Ward's thinking, okay, he's going low for the 16th time in a row here, and then finally he doesn't go low, goes high, gets the goal. Really liked what he was doing out there. Josh did Josh things, looked absolutely incredible. But the other players I want to call out, McKay, we called him out last game for being amazing. Like, it blows my mind, and the announcer said it again, and we said it on the last episode. He's not a lefty forward. And I understand he came into the league playing offense, but this is just such an incredible outburst of offensive talent. I know he has it in him. He's always been a true transition player that plays a lot of offense, plays a lot of defense, but this is a defensive player up until this year, a little bit last year, and when they had their offensive injuries, yes, he's been called upon, but he's still always been defense first. And even like you said, yes, you look silly now, but one of the reasons you didn't want him as a lefty forward is because his defense is so incredible, and his transition game that he brought to the team is so incredible that you wanted him more out the back end doing what he normally does. They put him on lefty forward, and he's been just a revelation up there. Like, to be on pace for what he's on pace, to already have 30 goals, it's just insane what he's doing. And I get because he's on the team he's on, and because his goals aren't league leading, but it should be talked about more with how incredible of a season he's having. And then the other two to call out, Scanlon and Buchanan. I love that they are 81-91. Love that they're both shorties on the team, one left, one right, loose ball hogs, water bugs. But they both scored a lot. Scanlon, this is the first game to me I've seen him with confidence, and I absolutely loved it. Like, we've said it a lot. A lot of the other games, he's finding the lanes, getting loose balls, but he's not really shooting that much, and he doesn't seem to trust his own ability to take those shots. In this game, he had a lot of shots. He had one off the pipe that eventually came back to him later in that possession when they got the ball controlled again, and he ended up scoring. And just his hustle, his play, all looked really, really good. But Buchanan, Scanlon, love that they are kind of a strange dynamic duo of their own. But the offense looked good overall, especially down the stretch. It looked like you said in your notes, it looked like they were finally having fun again. Not just found their groove, but they looked like they were enjoying having a good time. They were fast. They were scoring on everything. Just looked good again.
Yeah, and credit to all of them on there. It was great work in the final 6 minutes. If they had multiple second and third chances that were just burning the clock at that point, and it felt like Colorado was inching closer, but it never felt like the lead was in danger. It was kind of like the Las Vegas game where they just got up by so much and you just felt like it was a comfortable lead, and they kind of just were able to just start killing the clock. But yeah, I think Josh Byrne was clearly the best player on the field for both teams in this entire game. I mean, the 8 assists, I wonder how many of those were primary. I would count that up very easily, but you know, I think Nanticoke played a specific role in this one where it wasn't him getting points. It was him setting those pick and rolls that I think Colorado learned from Vancouver's game, that you cannot let those pick and rolls go, because I didn't see very many openings for the righties for those type of pick and rolls between whether it was Dane and Nanticoke, Chase Frazier and Nanticoke, Buchanan and Smith, all the vintage ones that we've seen in the past. Those weren't really working for the righties. They were working for the lefties, and you already called it out with Clay Scanlon. I do agree 100% with him having the most confidence that we've seen out of him in his time with Buffalo. It seemed like, hey, maybe some of this rest where he was back up in the box seeing some things was beneficial to him, which makes sense because, you know, Kluch was back in the lineup. McKay was able to play full-time forward, so there was not the need for Clay Scanlon in the lineup. But that fourth goal where he rolled off that pick and got in the middle, typically you would see him just take that shot immediately or look to dish it. He made a few shot fakes and then was able to beat Dylan Ward. But the one that stood out to me was, I think, clear and obvious, the fifth one. It went off the boards. He got it. He gets held. There's delay of game, couple more dekes. He was able to stay out of the crease. And I think that is the move that they had seen in summer ball, and that's the reason that they kept him on this team to be their fourth lefty forward. And that was one of the reasons why I think they signed him early in free agency, and that was one of the reasons why I had him pegged for that third lefty role on this team before we found out, okay, Ian McKay is going to play that full-time lefty forward up there. So I do think that when the time does come, hopefully it's not next year, and I'm not going to say the word on here, but when the time comes where Buchanan does move on, I think you just flip it from 4 righty forwards to 4 lefty forwards, and Clay Scanlon is that new Buchanan on this team because he's got so many aspects. I would just like to see where it goes from here. And I mean, with the rest of the forwards, I really like all their game. It was spread around. Everybody but Nanticoke had some action in the play, but the shots were spread around. McKay had 6, Byrne had 8, Scanlon had 5, Buchanan had 9, Smith had 13, and Frazier had 8. So it was spread around, and it was one of those offensive, I think you said it perfectly right at the end. It seemed like they were finally having fun out there, and you could see it on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else for the offense.
Perfect. So we'll move on to the defense. I think middle of the first, there was a chance where they had 4 opportunities. Colorado did 4 opportunities, and it was the same 5 defensive players out there for Buffalo. They were able to keep them off the board. I think that was a great shift. I think Dylan Robinson, back-to-back weeks now, and you can say what you want about last week with the headshot and the suspension and whatever. He's still appealing, whatever. He is turning into a transition type of player that I was hoping we were going to see last year. Because when last year we were saying, okay, and we all remember when Ian McKay goes down with that knee injury in the playoffs, and we were all freaking out, and then he comes right back after halftime. We're like, okay, that's why you need somebody behind Ian McKay, and that's why I was calling maybe it could be Dylan Robinson. I think these last two games, with the speed he has and the ability to finish in the transition game, I think he is developing into that next transition player that this team desperately needs, because that is something that they're lacking in this one. But I like their defense. I think getting Zach Belter back in the lineup and having one of the multiple same type of players out of the lineup was a great decision. I hope continuing they move forward. But I think overall, I really like the defense. There were a few lapses, and we'll get into it in a second. I want to get you your nice comments on the defense first. But for the most part, I really like the defensive play, and I think this is a good rotation. If you want to sub Ron John in for a different one of those transition players coming out next week, that's fine. But I think that the core here is the core that you want to move forward with.
Yeah, overall, I was fine with the defense, especially, I mean, the final score is not too bad, but I do think, especially in the first half, that Vince bailed them out way too many times with mind-blowing saves that he shouldn't be asked to make as many times as he did. And it seemed like the biggest thing to me that I noticed was their switches were either slow or non-existent, or there was miscommunication. But it's more of a question to you. Do you think the kind of revolving door they've had on the back end right now, with either starting caliber players getting healthy scratched, or Wires being out for being injured, Belter being out for a little bit, other new players like Matisse coming in, Ron John coming in, Dooley kind of subbing in here and there, Dylan Robinson out, now he's back in. Like, do you think that these communication and switch errors happen because they are not playing as much together? Like, when we saw the defense at its absolute best, and I'm not saying like the personnel they have, I do think is the best they've had in a little while, and it's always been good, but I do think this is their best group of guys that they've had in a while. But do you think because they haven't been playing consistently with the same lineup, we're seeing more of the switches being a little bit slow, allowing a free shot, of the switches being just confusing, and all of a sudden somebody gets inside and Vince is called upon to make a huge save? It just seemed like the communication and that aspect, which normally we see with the Buffalo defense is nearly flawless, and why it makes them so difficult to get through, seems to be just off. In this game especially, I know some of the offense, because of the injuries, they don't have as much tape on, or they haven't played against them, so it's a little bit different, but it seemed like some of their situational defense was just off, and I was just wondering if you think it's because the multitudes of lineup changes they've had recently.
Yeah, I don't know how you can look at it and not say that. I definitely think that is the main reason that the switches are either slow or just not there. It's the lack of communication and the lack of time together on the field, and that's why now that you guys, at least coming out of this, it appears that everybody is healthy. I think you got to roll the same lineup that you just had out there for that exact reason. If you want to sub one guy in for another, that's fine, but it can't be these wholesale changes that we've seen the last few weeks. And I get the doubleheader, that played a factor into it. Right. Last week you had no Wires, that made a factor into it. But now that you got this steady, healthy group out there, I do think that you have to have the same ones and work towards the same lineup that you want going into the playoffs. That way you can work out these kinks before playoffs start off.
Yeah, so that is exactly the same thought I had, especially with the last two games and playoffs. So as per usual, we are on the same page without talking about it at all. My other not bad thing, and this is offensive defensive kind of combo, I do wish, and I get it, they already have four righties, it's very hard to find any room to get up there, but I wish we'd see a little bit more Matisse on offense, or at least when he goes from, not out the front door by any means, but when he's on defense going to offense, I'd like to see him stay out, not 10, 20, 30 shifts, but even just, it seems like he's never on offense, and he's in off, like the last few years he's played offense, and to see him virtually never on offense when he does offer something a little bit different than every one of the righties brings. He's a little bit of that bigger body, that veteran out there, and I think what he can add is a little bit different, and I'd just like to see him, again, literally maybe like 5 offensive shifts and that's it, because I get that the righty side is stacked, but just to throw a different wrench into what the defense has to game plan for. I think they're not utilizing Matisse's offense ability at all. It seems like there's a few times where he almost wants to stay out and then he just kind of casually jogs off. And I understand, I'm fully on board with him being fully defense. He led the team in loose balls. He's been fine back there. I like him on defense, but I'd like to see him every once in a while stay out and be offense a little bit more than they seem to be allowing him to be.
I would agree if the offense was playing to the level that they were playing today. If it was on Saturday, if it was consistently them putting up the scores that we were seeing earlier in the season, not even that level, but similar than like the back-to-back 11-goal games that we've seen multiple times now. If they were consistently looking like a well-oiled machine, I would be perfectly fine with that. But because they hadn't been, I want to see the forwards try to work through this and get to the point where, okay, now we can give Matisse a couple shifts up here in the transition game. Okay, now we can give a couple shifts over here to even a Dylan Robinson over there or whoever else on the left-hand side. So I think if the offense the next couple weeks looks good in playoffs, hey, maybe change it up. Maybe that is their plan that, hey, even Priola has said it multiple times, you don't want to show everything going into the playoffs. So maybe they do have some place set up for Matisse to stay out there that they just don't want to show their hand yet. They want to show it in playoffs in the do or die situation. So I do agree, but I think there's a time and a place for it, and I just don't think it's been that time and place for it. And to kind of go over my negatives here, it seemed like, and I'm not trying to call him out because he just came back into the lineup after a two-game absence. Maybe it was him being tired. Maybe it was him still working through and getting back onto the field. But that fourth quarter from Cam Wires was just, there was no effort out there. Like, it was just him going through the motions. We're a Buffalo sports podcast here. We're not completely biased towards the team. If there's something we got to call out, there's something we got to call out. And these are that's two things that I got to call out. I'm calling them out. Like, I'm not afraid to do it. If it goes back and people get mad, so be it. It's the truth if you watch the game. I think he was going through the motions. And again, maybe it was something lower body and he's working his way back through it on the field because it was the fourth quarter. I didn't see it in the first three, but I saw it in the fourth. But when you're up by that much and he was responsible for, let's see here, the ninth goal. It was just a lazy play where, Malcolm's behind the net and C-Rob finds him and Dawson just can't get to that side. He was just standing around. But the second one is Thomas Witte. I mean, goals 3, 4, and 6 are completely on him. And the third one, him and Martin, just confused. And I think Witte just assumes that Martin's going to switch off. That, again, goes back to the lack of communication back there. And Ryan Lee is just wide open. The fourth one can't happen. You got bodied by a defender in the game. And then he got way inside. And Vince is just like looking at him like, what the hell just happened there? Like, he got bodied by Jordan Gillies bad. And it was another one where they just scored in transition. And then the sixth one, it was Witte again. He was waiting for the pick and just lets Lee way too much space. Like, if you think the pick's coming, get ready for the switch. But he was like, it was one of those times where he's like half guarding the guy and half waiting for the pick. It can't be in between. So to me, and again, maybe this is the first time I've called out a player individually all season long, but to me, going into next week, I think the switch needs to be made and put Ranjan in place for Thomas Witte, because if you're going to hold players responsible, he cost them 3 goals, and 2 of them were in the first half that allowed Colorado to get right back into it, and the 6th one was a tying one to start the second half. So to me, if I'm the coach's decisions, which I'm not, I'm sitting behind a microphone, whatever you want to call it, I think Ranjan has to go in for Thomas Witte. Just if you're trying to hold players accountable, it has to happen in that situation.
Yeah, I think at this point, I don't know. I'd like to like what Ranjan brings more than Witte. I did think Witte was on a really good streak of a couple of good games. He had multiple games with 10 loose balls. I think he led the team. He looked like he was starting to play really, really well. Even had a cause turnover. I do completely agree with you, though. He looked horrible in this game. So it's only because of the recent good games he's had, and by recent I mean like literally the last few games that he's played. I was going to ask you, would you put Ranjan in over Witte? And I was trying not to overreact from one bad game, but at the same time, like you said, it's hard not to, especially with the depth this team currently has. Like, if you have a bad game, then you need to be kind of put out. And if, you come back after that and figure things out and get better, and I think it just needs to be a message sending that like that kind of game's not accepted. I think is essentially what you're also saying. Like, this is a championship level team. You can't have even one down game where, like you mentioned, 3 out of 10 goals are your fault. That can't happen. This team's too good for that. This team has too much depth to allow any kind of single game effort that ends up being that bad. It's just this team's too high caliber for that level of play. Other teams, I mean, not trying to be mean, but other teams may be able to withstand that because that's the best they have out there. Buffalo has plenty of depth where a player like Whitty, and we've already mentioned it, there's like 10 of them on the team right now all of a sudden when they used to have 0. Now there's way too many of them. I do think what Ron John offers is a little bit different. He seems to be more physical and a little bit more defensive of his transition ability. And Whitty seems to be more of a loose ball, not as defensive kind of guy. So I think they are a little bit different. But like you said, I think you just need to hold players accountable for their actions, especially this close to playoffs. So I have no problem with him being benched for a game. And if he gets back in the final game and shows that he deserves that playoff spot and to be in the playoff roster, then that's one thing. But if Ron John comes out next game and plays that, that he deserves to be in there, then that's fine too. As long as whoever's in when it comes playoff time is the best they can put out there, I am all for it.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. This is a championship contending team that the depth is there. It's not just 1 or 2 mistakes. There were 3 goals that cost him, and plenty of other situations within the game. It's just these ones were the ones that got back by Matt Vince. So if you have a bad game, you have to worry, okay, there's a healthy guy that's fighting to come into this roster here. So I think that's the best way to look at it. Again, not fully down on Thomas Whitty as a player, not down on him, not saying anything other than just a really bad game, and I think Ron John has to come in his place. But before we try to tie up this one with a nice little bow, let's go over our second sponsor of the show, Tap That Tap Room.
Tap That Tap Room is at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. They are 2 years old. Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps, offering a wide variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
So I know it's only Monday, and it might be Tuesday when you're listening to this. Maybe it's even Thursday. Who knows when you're listening to us. But it's a busy week coming up at Tap That Tap Room. Wednesday, 7:30, Weekly Geeks Who Drink. Friday, 7 to 3. I'm sorry, 3 to 7. I was a little backwards there. It's their weekly happy hour where the whole beer wall is discounted. Then this coming weekend, Saturday, is paint night with Mary at 4 p.m. Little creative play on words there. I get what you're doing there, Mary. Space is limited, but tickets are still available. All paint supplies are included with the ticket cost. And then the second to last regular season watch party for the Buffalo Bandits is in full effect. So if you don't have tickets to the game, head down to Tap That Tap Room. By far best place, and it's catching on that this is the place to watch the Bandits games because there's no other place that has the sound on. Ticket giveaways at halftime. It kicks off at 7:30. It is by far the best place, and the word is spreading. People are doing our work now where we don't have to chime in to places to watch. Absolutely love it. So the word is spreading to get down to Tap That Tap Room, not just for the Bandits watch parties, but for every other thing they got on their schedule. And to find out what else is coming up, check out their Facebook page. And to find out what's on tap and what's on deck, check out tapthattaproom.com. Phil, I think Matt Vince looked really good. I want to see what he looks like coming up in Halifax before I fully say that he's fully back. Not that he's looked bad. It's just I think in this game, he was the type of goaltender that we saw in the Vegas game, in the Albany game, through the playoffs last year. So I'm hoping that this is the tune-up game for him. Again, Vancouver, he didn't look bad. It's just he wasn't making those big-time saves that Christian Del Bianco was making at the other end. He was making those big-time saves in this one, keeping Buffalo in it, not allowing Colorado to get that lead that, hey, if they get up 7-6, this could be a whole completely different game because lacrosse is such a big game of runs. But because of the performance that we saw in this one, because of the big time saves, I want to see how he looks versus Halifax, which is one of the best offenses in the entire league. I look like an idiot for that one as well. which we're going to interview Mackie Jenner on Wednesday for that one, talk about Halifax, little teaser for that interview coming up. But I would like to see how he looks in Halifax. I want to see a similar type of game that we did here versus Colorado for a tune-up to see playoff Matt Vince in full effect.
Yeah, this game was incredible, and to me, the Bandits would not have been winning at half without Vince. I think especially in the first half, he was beyond amazing with everything he was doing, and honestly, I thought Ward played just as well as him on the other side, and if it wasn't for Ward, the Bandits would have had a bigger score at half, but if it wasn't for Vince, I think the Bandits could have been losing at half. So I think both goalies, and especially in the first half, played absolutely incredible. It was really, really fun to watch both of them just with huge, huge saves. But one of the things that was mentioned on your most recent interview was when you get that big save, you need the goal right after. You need that momentum. Like, after I give you a big save, do something with it. And the very first goal of the game, Matt Vince makes a huge inside save. I believe it was 1-on-1. And on the next possession, Dane Smith goes down and scores. And then the Gibson diving goal behind the net. Yes, it was a crease violation, so Vince didn't really save it, but the Bandits score on the next possession. That's something that they were missing, or not necessarily missing, but it was flip-flop for a long time, whereas the Bandits would be the team that was in the crease on the next possession. The other team would score. So it was good to see that kind of flipped in the Bandits' favor. I feel like it's been a little bit since they've had, I don't want to call it luck, but they've had that kind of situation go their way. But Vince looked really good. I really just have no issues with what he did, and I thought the Bandits defense could have been a little better in front of him, but with what Vince was able to do, especially like you have there, the double stack save looked like he's not in his 40s, and I don't know how he continues to do it. The man is beyond jacked and in shape, but if this is the kind of Matt Vince they get for playoffs, I think they will be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think overall, as we look at this game, the offense looked good. The offense looked like it's on its way back to the offense that we saw the beginning half of the season. The goaltending looked, you got the saves you wanted to get in Vancouver's definitely in this one. You got it like we saw in the Albany and the Vegas game. The defense still has to figure out the right rotation and run with it rather than flip-flopping. And I know I'm the one saying Whitty should come out and Ron John should go in. But I think you need to find that good mix. And I do think that maybe it could be with Ron John coming back in and Whitty taking a seat for now. But I do think that it's got to be one of the transition players that's always in the box with a Nielsen up there. And no shot at Nielsen. Don't come after me. I'm just saying that he's the fifth righty for it. But I do think that keeping a guy like Belter, keeping a guy like Wires, one of those bigger bodied guys in the rotation, along with all the small, faster guys in the transition game, is your best rotation. And then if you want to flip-flop the transition players, that's fine to find the right mix. But I definitely think these last two games, with one more win or one more Saskatchewan loss, you lock up the number one seed. You got 2 games to figure it out. Like, you got that extra game buffer. So if you do lose to Halifax, you got that opportunity to keep it with the Georgia game or whoever Saskatchewan faces in the final week. I don't know. But you got a 2-game buffer here. The magic number is 1 to lock up the number one seed. So I think you got a little bit of time to figure out the right mix of defenders back there as you go into playoffs. So I think they're in a very, very good position. And not saying I was not the one worried. I was not the one mad last episode. I'm not saying you were the one worried or anything in the last episode. But I think this game should settle a lot of nerves of Buffalo Bandits fans out there because you broke the losing streak. Ooh. But also the team looked like it was ready for playoffs and fine-tuning some things to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, the only other real thing I have, the shorthanded opportunities need to stop. My goodness, I think the Bandits got pretty lucky. I know Vince made a really big save that was shorthanded, pretty much on a breakaway, and right before that, there was a wide open shot, dead center, that Vince also had to make a huge save on. Just, I don't like it. It wouldn't be an issue if this was the only time it happened, but it's
been weekly.
Right, this is 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row now. We've seen really, really good or goals, shorthanded opportunities for the opposing team. I don't know what is with the Bandits' man-up defense right now.
It's the cross passes. Like, have you noticed the last few weeks? It's a guy setting a back pick, and then the guy coming across, and it's usually
they just
Dawson in
don't.
front of the net is not getting over in time, or Matisse, or whoever is in that middle position where they're kind of just that roamer.
Right.
They're in middle of nowhere, and you got to be looking for that at this point. But like you said, it's a common weekly occurrence now, and not just a one-off. It's continuously happening.
And it cannot happen in playoffs. You cannot let up a shorthanded goal. And I mean, we just saw one. I know the game didn't really matter, but Vegas just won shorthanded against Toronto in overtime. That can't happen. That is horrible. I know that game didn't matter. Toronto, I think, kind of wanted to lose. No, I don't know. They wanted to win.
I said Toronto wanted to lose, lock up that number 1 and 2 picks.
Yeah. It didn't matter, but still not something you want, and the shorthanded opportunities have to be better. I know the power play still could be better, but I thought it looked better in this game in general. They were able to score one. They had some good looks, so I think it's slowly coming together, but the shorthanded opportunities cut it out.
Yeah, the only other thing, I think Farrell looked really bad in the first half going against Tim Edwards. Sorry, I've wanted him all off season. Why do I mess up his last name? I think he was bad in the first half. Tim Edwards was not a great faceoff man in this one or throughout the season. I think he was down at 41%.
I think so, yeah.
But I think Connor Farrell made the adjustments, and I do not think the 16-13 faceoff advantage is indicative of what we saw in the second half from Connor Farrell. He was winning those faceoff draws, and I think 2 or 3, at least 2, maybe 3 times off a faceoff when they scored on that same possession. So I think he looked a lot better in the second half. He made those adjustments, and I hope they correct it, because I do not think it was 16-13. There's no way Colorado had 13 more faceoff wins than Buffalo. Again, faceoffs to us, they are valued differently for each possession. So we're not saying faceoffs don't matter. We're just not saying faceoffs matter. They have a range and a moving scale of how much of a value they have. But we'll move on here to the milestones. Some did happen and some came very close. So hopefully we can check them off next week, even though we're getting closer to the playoffs where there's 9 million of them. Remember, we post these lead up to each game. So if you want to track them and follow along with us, you can just go to our X or Blue Sky, Buffalo Sports Co. right there. Dane Smith, he passed Ryan Lee for 4th most assists in a single NLL season. Josh Byrne doubled up what he needed to. He needed 5, he got 10. He's at 605 career points. Dane Smith needed 5, he got 7, so he is over 1,200 points. One of the main reasons that he was our BSC MVP this week. Nick Weiss set a new career high for loose balls. He needed 4, he got 9. Chase Frazier is now tied with Darius Kilgore for 9th in Buffalo Bandits history in points. Mad Vince is now tied with Anthony Cosmo for most games played for a goalie in Bandits history. We will pass them if he plays on Saturday. Knock on wood. Making sure. And then both Dane Smith and Josh Byrne passed both Ryan Benesh and John Tavares in single season points for the Buffalo Bandits. So congratulations to all of them, even though Dane Smith is falling further and further out of the assist and points record watch. It's going to be he's going to need a lot in the next 2 games to break or tie either of those.
It's a little embarrassing, and
You've been hard on him the last 2 games.
Yeah, I have. I do think he's starting to pick it back up just in time. His lull that he had in the middle of the season, that seems to be the reason he's slipping farther and farther away. I think it's over. I think he's looked a lot better as of late, but his buddy Byrne looking amazing as well. It's going to be very interesting to see between Josh and Smith, kind of Fields, but we'll see who ends up coming out with the point title, as they are dead even at 118. Josh is trying to say that he is no longer in the shadow of Dane. He is the man, so it'll be very interesting to see those two down the stretch. And once again, we say it a lot, but I feel like we haven't said it in a little bit. Just keep enjoying watching greatness while you can. It is wildly insane to have 2 of the best players in the entire league, not only on the same team, but also on different sides of the field, looking amazing. Just keep enjoying it. Enjoy Smith and Byrne, and just keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. So just don't think that the good times are going to roll even when they walk out the door, because it doesn't happen. And we're a long ways from that happening, but just appreciate the time that you got right now. But we'll go over our third sponsor of the show before diving into Week 19 of the NLL, and that is the Totally Buffalo Store. Their mission is to celebrate all things Buffalo with over 100 local artisans. They are the place to go when you need a gift for a friend or just want to shop around for something for yourselves. Phil, why?
Because they have
they want to treat yourself. Treat yourself. They offer 3 locations, 3328. That's going to catch on just like something for everyone.
I thought you stopped early.
I'll get you there. They offer 3 locations, 3328 Sheridan Drive in Amherst, 3459 Amelia Drive in Orchard Park, and 467 Center Street in Lewiston. Now it is your turn to talk.
This Friday and Saturday, there is a new sale coming to one of those 3 stores or all the stores near you. 20% off all crew neck sweatshirts and hoodies. Plus, get a free Buffalo sticker with each purchase while supplies last. Don't forget they have incredible Easter and Dingus Day apparel and accessories. And if you head over to their Facebook page, you can check out a recent post titling all of their Buffalo lacrosse merchandise, from sweatshirts to pants to accessories to cutting boards to tumblers to little buffaloes. They have anything you are looking for to gear up as we quickly approach playoffs. Check out their Instagram and website as well at totallybuffalostore.com.
So we'll go over Week 19 for the NLL. 4 teams are locked in. 4 teams are fighting, or there's 4 spots left that like 6 teams are fighting for. We'll start with Calgary's upset of Saskatchewan. This helped Buffalo get their magic number down to 1 with a 10-6 win. Rush were 3 for 7 on the power play. Calgary was 2 for 4, but the shots were also in favor of the Rush, 63-47. It was 3-3 after 1, 5-4 Saskatchewan at half, and they would score just 1 in the third quarter. Calgary would score all 4 in the fourth. And Nick Rose, most saves he's ever had, 57-63, 1 goal in the final 35-15 of the game. Where has this been from Calgary all season long since they made those big acquisitions of Nick Rose? It's just, thank you, Calgary, send from Buffalo fans. That's pretty much all this was. I don't know. I don't know what happened to Saskatchewan in this one. They got goalied. I guess that's the easiest explanation.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it way too many times recently. But a good goalie can steal a game. We will mention it again. And something we talked about with this Calgary team going into this was, they're fighting for their playoff lives, and they did a lot to acquire Nick Rose to kind of save their season and push them into playoffs. And I don't want to say I called Nick Rose out necessarily, but that was a big acquisition, and the team just hadn't been winning and hadn't lived up to what they could do. And this was a game to show that, can you beat one of the championship cup looking contending teams out there, and can you beat them, especially in their barn? And they were able to do it. I don't think it was easy by any means, and I do think it took like you said, record-breaking game from Nick Rose in order to do it, but that's why they brought him in, was to have games like this and steal wins, and he did just that.
Yeah, and I think them not having to score a bunch of goals to overcome the deficits on the back end was massive for them. But we'll move forward. Albany's hopes and dreams went up in flames because they are the Firewolves. They lost 10-4. Yeah, that's a 4. To Vancouver. Vancouver was up 4-1 at half, 5-3 after 3, which means Albany would score 1 goal in the whole second half. It was 5-1 in the fourth by Vancouver, and Christian Del Bianco, 4-game winning streak. I'm not saying that he's going to be up for goaltender of the year, because I don't think the sample size is long enough. But let me ask you this real quick, and you can dive in the game as well if you want, because Alex Simmons did not look fully go. I think he probably should have rested, and I know they needed him, but it's still out there. Is Christian Del Bianco, with the performances that Vancouver's putting up right now to get themselves in contention for a home playoff game, can he possibly win MVP? Like, isn't this the definition of most valuable player to their team? It's just the turnaround that this team has had since they put him into the lineup.
Yeah, it's been strange because it's not and not trying to take shots at him, I do like him quite a bit. But he hasn't been this good the whole time, right? The 4-game winning streak, he's had goals against of 8, 13, 12, and 4. So the 13 and 12, you still need an offense to do that much more to get you those wins. And the 8 and 4, that's more Christian Del Bianco. But at the same time, like we've mentioned before, not only his veteran leadership, I think we saw it against Buffalo, his ability to push the pace of play for their offense, I think has led to them scoring more goals, and just what he's brought to this team, whether it's an uplifting mojo, whatever it is he brought, they are, like you mentioned, 4-0 and took down Buffalo. So it's tough because, like you said, sample size is low. By far, I don't think it's close that he's the best trade deadline acquisition of the season, and probably of forever on that team, because they look really, really good with him. But if they allow the small sample size he had, like if they win out, not playoffs, but if they win out the rest of the season, which they have a very good shot of doing with the Rock and Wings coming up, 2 teams that are dead and gone, even though the Wings we'll talk about them in a moment. I think, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say no, but it's hard not to give it to a player that's played 18 games compared to a player that's played just 6. But like you said, definition of an MVP, he, not single-handedly, but he is a monster reason that their team is turning their season around and making playoffs.
Yeah, that's just my main point. I think it's going to go to, and I think it does deserve to go to, a player that's been the most meaningful for their team for a whole season. But I think it's hard to ignore a player coming in, winning 6 straight, winning out, getting a home playoff game, and kind of completely turning around what this organization even looks like, even when they ship out a forward. So just put it out there. Maybe he could be in top 5 for that one. But a game that Buffalo, yes, he should at least get 1 vote, even if it's just for 3rd place or 5th place or however they work. A game that all Buffalo Bandits fans should have an eye on because it is their next opponent. Halifax takes down San Diego 13-10. Seals were 2 for 7 on the power play, and there's your difference right there. Halifax was 3 for 3. Somebody made the most out of theirs. Somebody didn't. It was 5-3 San Diego after 1. Halifax came back and led 9-7 at half. They were 10-8 after 3. And I don't understand. This is a question I'm going to be asking Mackie. I don't understand Warren Hill's game whatsoever. Some games he just looks like the best goaltender in the league, and some games he lets in 5 goals on 8 shots. It makes no sense. I don't get it. But Hutchison comes in relief, big-time game. They get a win. It's just, I don't understand this Halifax team at all. I had them pegged for 12th before the season. It's my biggest miss, but I don't know what this team can be if they actually get... I think Halifax can win the whole stinking thing if they get Warren Hill, peak Warren Hill. That's how good I think Halifax can be, and he just wasn't in this one.
Yeah, their offense has proved it. I mean, their offense has been lethal the entire season. They took down Origlieri, who's a very good goaltender in this league. I know he's still young, still up and coming, but he's established enough that he's a very good goalie, and they were able to get plenty past him, and the offense looks very dynamic. But the biggest question mark, I think, one of them was partly their offense headed into the season, how they could make it all work with a lot of missing pieces, and they are making it work. But the other one was goaltending. What is Hill, and how good was he going to be? And like you said, he's not doing it. And there are games he does it, and it looks great, but he's not consistent enough. And we'll go back to what we've said a million times. I just said it again. You need a really, 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 really good goalie in order to win it all. We've seen it. The last few championships have all been by incredible top talent league goalies. And if you have a goalie who's even remotely shaky, you're going to have a tough time in playoffs, especially in a 3-game series. You might be able to sneak one by in that first series. This exact situation, Albany or Halifax versus San Diego, if this is a, round 1 matchup, yeah, you might be able to sneak through with Hill struggling and Hutchinson coming in relief. But you do that for 3 games, it's highly unlikely you're going to be able to come out of that series winning. So Hill needs to figure it out quick, or they need to bench him, and Hutchinson just needs to be their guy and needs to be, the one for the rest of the season. It's a very tough situation this close to playoffs for a team, like you said, that has the ability to win it all if they can put it together in net.
Yeah, that's just been the issue. Is even when Hutchison's gotten the net, he has struggled, and then Hill had to come in. It's just they
It's weird.
need
Like they
Hill
can't
to be.
start. They have to start
Yeah,
one for 1 minute and then pull whoever's in
yeah,
relief is great.
yeah. But we'll move on here. Ottawa is as close to being out of it as possible. Rochester wins their sixth straight game. They were who we thought they were. 12-6 win. Rochester was 5 for 6 on the power play, where Ottawa was 3 for 9. Again, power play and special teams is coming in big this week. 4-1 Rochester after 1, 6-2 at half, 9-4 after 3. It was not very close in this one. Rochester's offense poured it on. Hartley looked really good. And Ottawa, once again, does not play Jacob Dunbar, ruining my bold prediction, which looked beautiful to start the season. I hate you, Ottawa. This is who we thought you were. I hope you missed the playoffs again. You need to make changes. And, yeah, I'm just bitter. I'm a bitter Betty right now.
That's fair. Rochester, despite being really, really good, seems kind of like Buffalo light still, with Fields and Smith opposite sides, both extremely good, both at the top of the leaderboard there. Hartley looking better and better as the season goes on. Rochester is going to be terrifying to play in playoffs, especially in a one and done, but in general, they're going to be a really, really strong team. And, you know, like we thought this entire time, we knew we were right, and we never doubted ourselves for a moment. Same with Ottawa. We have yet to trust them because they've burned us each individually in past bold predictions, and we gave up trusting them. And here they are, trying their best to crash out of playoffs. And I don't know, Rochester just seems they're real good. Also, how do you get 9 power play opportunities? That is wild.
9 and lose.
9 and lose. It's impressive. Nice job, Ottawa.
Congratulations. We'll move on. 2 more here. The drought is over. It's been vanquished, and all you had to do was place Georgia. Don't know what happened, and all you also needed to have was Mitch Jones ejected in the first quarter and pull Nick Damoud. I don't get it. Georgia is such a frustrating team, and I've said it in my articles. I've said it on the show. I've said it for years. They're so frustrating. They lost 15-13 versus Philly, who wins their first game in nine attempts. Georgia was 4 for 5 on the power play. Philly was 1 for 4. And the face-offs, Philly 25-7. Georgia was up 5-1 after 1. They were up 8-7 at half and 11-9 after 3. And then they give up 5 straight to Philly. I don't think Georgia is very good. They have ability to steal one game every once in a while, but they're the same team that we've seen the last 4 seasons that haven't made adjustments. And I think this is the time where after the season, when you're a one and done in the playoffs, like you have been for multiple seasons, or you win 7 straight or lose 7 straight or 9 straight, whatever it was the year before that, they need to make household changes with this organization. And I don't know exactly how you're going to do that when you just locked up. And this is not a Lyle shot. This is not a Shane Jackson shot. It's just this combination of players hasn't worked. It's not going to work. And to keep doing the same mistake over and over is the definition of insanity. I think they needed to make changes this offseason. They didn't. And this is where you're at. You're sitting 8-8 and a chance to miss the playoffs. So I don't know. I just, Georgia is such a frustrating team because the potential's there and they're just lacking the execution with it.
Yeah, Georgia and Ottawa have been the two all season long where they've had really fantastic games out of absolutely nowhere. And you're like, okay, is this the team? And then they get some weird random loss. You're like, all right, is this the team? And you really don't know what the heck you're watching. And Georgia, again, like, I don't know, a team that's lost 7 straight, you let them 8 straight. You let them come into your field and lose a game that you really wanted to win. I don't get it. Dobson has not taken the step forward I was hoping he would take. It's not that he's the reason or he's performing terrible by any means. I would still love him as a goalie, but he's not taking the extra step forward that I thought he might take this season. But they're so frustrating and weird. Like, they have the ability to be good, but they also don't have the ability to be good. But the biggest thing was what you mentioned. In the offseason, they did pretty much nothing, and they just wanted to run it back, and we've seen them run it back too many times without any real results coming from it. So they got to shake it up. They got to do something this offseason, because if they run it back again, you're going to end up with the exact same frustrating team that makes playoffs and then is out immediately.
Last game, Poop Fest on Sunday. Congrats if you had to watch this. Vegas wins it 14-13 in overtime. 4-3 Toronto after 1, 8-7 Las Vegas at half, 10-10 after 3. Webster ties it with 1:11 to go, and then Hannah would win it in overtime. It's two teams that are pretty much out of it. I know only Vegas is technically out of it, but Toronto's out of it. It's just, it will be very interesting to see what direction these both teams take it next year. I think Toronto's going to blame a lot of the injuries, even though week 1, you had your full group of forwards. It's what I've been fighting for, and you scored 5 goals. So Vegas has got to do something. Either Sean Williams has got to go to straight coach or GM, not both roles. I still don't think that Matt Sawyer is the right head coach for Toronto, but again, this is just me talking to a wall and a screen. What else can I say? It was a poop fest of a game. Who cares? Gross. Better Sunday games, please.
Good for Vegas, for at least the fans that went and support the team. It's good for them to get a little entertaining overtime win. So, I mean, at least for them being home, it was fun for the league. I'll put it that way. It was an entertaining lacrosse game. Doesn't mean anything to the standings or anything like that, but as far as the Vegas fans that went, good for them. Glad they won in home. It was a fun little ending to that game that they were able to come back and win it in overtime. Congrats to them and their fans. But, yep, that's all I got on that one.
So we'll break down what week 20 with 2 regular season weeks left on the next show. Phil, the Sabres are doing something what they typically do, but just even better this year. Saturday versus Tampa, they won 3-2 in a shootout. Tage and Zucker were the goal scorers. Tage gets over 40. Reimer, again, unbelievable. 22 of 24 saves. Shots were 38-24 in favor of Buffalo. 1 for 3 on the power play, but it was Noah Oslin's first game. And they're finishing off right now versus the Bruins. They are up 5-3 with 1:10 to go, so we'll give them the victory.
Team so much.
We'll give them the victory here. But that means they're 12-2 at home the last 14 games. They're 15-4 in their last 19, and they're 21-13-3 at home. If this team had gotten anywhere close to good goaltending or anywhere average special teams, this team could be a playoff team right now. With how they're playing right now, and I'm not getting myself hyped up because I already said they're never making playoffs the rest of the history. I'm standing by that. I don't care what changes. But it's just, you see what this team is capable of when they have no expectations. It just stinks that there's always going to be expectations. They got it way too early in November. They were in a playoff race right in November, and then it all comes tumbling down. But they got 6 games left, but they are finishing the season very, very good. I am going to be interested to see what they do in the offseason because they need to address goaltending. They need to fire some assistant coaches and switch things up there to make things more entertaining and bring some type of fans back. You're not getting me back to the playoffs. It's not going to work. It's never going to work. Hold me to this in the offseason, Phil. You have to be you have to be my parent in this one. Just whack my hand anytime I go for the cookie jar. But yeah, they've actually looked like a respectable, good hockey team in the last, 10, 15 games here, and I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I'd rather them stink.
Yeah, I mean, when they're supposed to lose, they win. When they're supposed to win, they lose. And I know you said expectations, but they don't have any anymore. Like, it's 14 years without playoffs. Like, going into a new season, no one expects you to do anything. No one expects you to make playoffs. Like, the run is so incredibly long. They should always be playing as if there are no expectations and they're out there just having fun and winning games. Like, there's no pressure on this team. Everyone... The fans hate you. The city is just over it. Like, there's so little expected from this team. And I think, you're a big, part of it as far as, like, they're never making playoffs again. And honestly, I think that's where most fans are at this point. They're over. Like, yes, they'll still cheer for them. They'll still go occasionally. And congrats when they win. But heading into a new season, like, everyone expects you not to make playoffs again and again and again and again. So there should be no expectations. Yes, they have a lot to do this offseason. Like every offseason, yes, they're on a heater at the end of the season like they were last season. And it's annoying more than anything and frustrating that, like, you couldn't do this earlier. Instead, you decided to have a 13-game losing streak and, kiss away any chance you had of making playoffs. And now that you're well out of it, you're deciding to show up and play and do well and blow your draft pick away, which I don't really care about anymore. But I mean, it's just annoying to watch this team continually do well. But I don't know. I have no hope. Good to see them winning as much as they are. Do this for an entire season, and you make playoffs. It's that simple.
Tage just had a hat trick too. So they got 6 games left. They're getting back to respectability in the standings, I'll say. Because I'm looking at it right now. We'll go over the conference, the wild card.
Punching away any
I
draft
know it doesn't
pick
really matter, but they just tied Pittsburgh. They're 3 full points ahead of Boston and Philly now. They're 3 points back of Columbus, 4 of Islanders, 5 of Wings and Rangers. And they're only 9 points back of Montreal. They have not gotten eliminated into April. So that's an accomplishment that they were not eliminated when the calendar flipped to April. We're almost in the second week of April here, man, and they're still in it. But that will wrap up this episode. Is there anything else you would like to add to it before we shut it down for a work week, before we get ready for Bandits versus Thunderwolves, or Thunderbirds? Thunderwolves would be a cool mascot. Thunderbirds on Saturday night for Fan Appreciation Night in the final regular season home game of the year.
I don't think that's the first time you mixed those two up.
Probably not. I mess up many things.
But no, Fan Appreciation should be fun. Then they get an away game. They are still undefeated away, which is weird for the Bandits. Normally they're extremely good home. Not that they're bad away, but to be undefeated away and have losses at home seems strange. But if they keep winning away, it's good for playoffs, I guess, unless they lock up that number 1 overall seed. Maybe don't lock up the number 1 overall seed and just keep playing away games, because you seem to win more away. But Fan Appreciation should be fun. Hopefully they get a victory and do lock up the 1 seed, and they can just coast into playoffs and then turn it on like I've been waiting for the last 6 weeks.
So that will conclude this episode. On the next episode, we got one Sabres game that we can talk about. They play on Tuesday. We will cover Bandits versus Halifax Thunderbirds preview show, and then go over week 20 of what we're looking forward to. Then make sure you look for our interview with Halifax Thunderbirds' own Mackie Jenner on Wednesday, breaking down what Halifax has looked like so far, and then we'll talk to you all again on Friday. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room, Totally Buffalo Store, and Phrase Flowers for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article's coming out on Tuesday. Mine's coming out on Thursday. Check out our store and our link tree on our socials, or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye!